We're going to talk about JPMorgan, the Bitcoin hating bank that has turned into a Bitcoin embracing bank. So they've completed their transformation from never Bitcoin to now launching an in-house Bitcoin fund for private bank clients. It's a passive Bitcoin fund in partnership with NYDIG. Now, of course, we all remember the CEO of JPMorgan, Jamie Dimon. He has just over the years been on a tear when it comes to Bitcoin. He said that he would fire JPMorgan employees who traded Bitcoin. He's called it a fraud. Like, he has really dug in. And now that it's shown that Bitcoin is here to stay and customers want it, he's changed his tune a little and said, well, I still don't like it, but I'll give customers what they want. So it's kind of this compromise they seem to have reached, and now they have launched it this week. So I'm going to throw this to the group for your thoughts on this transformation. I'll start with you, Adam.
So I think it's a funny story. So there's a quote from Jamie Dimon on CNBC back in 2017. This was in 2017, keep in mind. My daughter bought Bitcoin, it went up, and now she thinks she's a genius, right? So again, like, Jamie Dimon has been consistently wrong about it. But again, it gets back to the conversation we had yesterday about Gary Gensler. It's not necessarily that these people don't understand it. It's that perhaps they understand it well enough to appreciate what a threat it really is to the way that the financial system works right now. And they are incredibly invested in that financial system. They benefit hugely from it. So I think that what we're seeing here is another tacit acknowledgement that although Jamie Dimon says these things publicly, not so much recently, but he's never really walked it back, from a business standpoint, their customers are demanding it. And because their customers are demanding it, they're going to provide it. So it kind of doesn't really matter what he thinks. So I love stories like this. I love it when just the kind of hypocrisy gets brought to the surface around this stuff. And this is just another excellent example of that as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Will, you want to jump in?
Yeah, to Adam, to your point, like, I think to some degree that matters, but to a whole other point, it doesn't, just because Jamie Dimon's like a figurehead and the CEO there. He's still offering this to his clientele. So like whatever his like motivation for it, I think is more interesting here. Like, does he want his clientele to be able to have access to these products? Like, there's a whole other lot of products that he could offer that have a similar risk profile to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is extremely volatile. Why doesn't he offer those products? And in his comments yesterday, he said, well, my clients want it, so I need to provide it. It doesn't matter what I think about it. It's like, well, you're also the CEO, so why is there no ownership of the things that you're offering? Like, people come to your doors because they respect the decisions that you're making as the CEO there. And to me, it's like a little distasteful that he would offer a product like this and then kind of take some shots at it at the same time. And I understand like the other side of the argument that if clientele want it, you got to offer it. If you're a business, you got to sell something. But for him to come out and just be against it over and over and over again and then provide a product for it, it just seems a little wrong to me.
Like I said, I love it when we get stories like this, just because it does kind of reveal the hypocrisy. And the hypocrisy that I'm talking about specifically is this phenomenon where if you're walking in front of a parade, then you can reasonably say, I am leading the parade. But you have to keep walking the direction the parade is already going to walk. Because if you turn left and it keeps walking past you, then it makes it obvious. It reveals the fact that you were never leading in the first place. The only thing that really happened is you figured out the trend first, got there, stood in the right place, and acted like you had something to do with it. And I think that that's exactly what's happening here, is they're acknowledging that if they continue to follow their leader, that the parade's going to walk by without them, and that it will reveal that JPMorgan, and many of these larger companies are not innovative thinkers finding the next big thing. Instead, they are sort of just the gatekeepers that have to maintain that illusion of control. Naomi?
Yeah, I'll throw to Jen first, and then I have some further clarifications about how this is being rolled out. But Jen.
Please.
Yeah, I was just going to say what I liked about the story is there's still client demand, so much so that Jamie Dimon has to offer these products. And that's despite what's happening with regulation. That's despite what's happening with the climate narrative. That's despite the price going down. So it was I always take a positive thing away from these stories. That was my positive take from this story.
You try so hard, Jen.
I really do. I really do.
Well, I wanted to mentioned that, this is only being rolled out to their private bank clients, right? And it begs the question, like, are the other people not worthy of this? Because they actually clarified. They said that this will be presented to clients as the safest and cheapest Bitcoin investment vehicle available on private markets. So why do only some people get access to it? If it's so safe and it's so cheap, like, why are they curtailing the choices of a bunch of their customers and only giving it to the wealthy clients? It's an interesting question there. And also, I'm going to push back on the idea that this is the safest and cheapest investment vehicle available on the private markets. I mean, that's a ridiculous statement. And it also depends what your risk profile is. Do you see the bank itself as being a risk factor? A lot of people in crypto do, which is why they hold their own keys, which is why they have the actual asset of Bitcoin and don't go through these complex investment vehicles where someone else has custody and you never actually see the underlying assets. So they're making a lot of statements here. They're talking a lot of talk, but at the end of the day, they're kind of rolling out this narrow product just to their wealthy clients, which is kind of interesting. But Adam, I'll throw back to you for some final thoughts there.
Well, I'll just say that as far as like why roll this out to wealthy clients or to their wealthiest clients versus doing something else, why position it as the safest and cheapest option versus something else? Well, because those are the most important clients to JPMorgan. So, I mean, of course, like they have to be competitive there. Otherwise, like that's the whole business effectively.